Previously on the Game On podcast.
It was a shattering day from us for the Norwood fans.
Yes. So, 97. So you missed Port's first game, but you came in and debuted against Brisbane.
Yeah, I missed. I actually played some pretty good pre-season footy for Port, and then I can't remember if I did a quad or something like that. But missed round one. Unfortunate, because that would have been a buzz to play in the first game, but missed that. And I think I ended up playing about round 5 against Brisbane. So, and ended up winning that day. I think it was a really close game, and I think Stephen Paxman saved us in the final moments.
That's right. I do remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, he took on about 2 blokes coming out of fullback and smothered stuff, and somehow won the footy and turned it over and saved the day for us. So yeah, a bit of a buzz for my first game.
Well and truly. But then, of course, more importantly, you'd played enough games to qualify for Norwood, mate. So yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I think I played 17 AFL and 3 or 4 for Norwood.
You only had to play 3 to qualify.
Yeah, just to qualify. So I went back and played finals, and mate, well, lucky enough, Brett had played enough as well. So we're both pretty lucky to get back there and play finals together.
Yeah, quite incredible, because I think you probably played about 8 or 9 games between the two of you to play for Norwood. Both come back, and yeah, as you both should have, you well and truly Norwood people, but delivered in spades, and yeah, a great memory.
Oh, it was a fantastic memory. I mean, Brett did it on a bigger scale, coming from an AFL grand final and then playing in an SANFL one. But for me, like I think Brett, I listened to him the other week on this podcast, that when we were growing up, Norwood was everything for us. To actually win a premiership, like Brett said, was everything. So to get that moment and actually do it was unreal.
So just to go back a step, did you play together a lot, obviously, for Kersbrook, and then obviously followed your way through to Norwood?
No, we didn't actually, because every year I went up, he went up as well. So
you probably play, and you wouldn't have played at all, of course, with Paul till later either.
No. I think one of our first games all together was 2004. I think we all played together at South Adelaide one game.
Wow.
And I reckon that was probably one of our only our first game together, I think.
Wow. So does that make then the 97 Premiership together even more special?
Oh, for sure. To do it with your brother, I mean, to win a flag is everything, but if you can do it with your brother, it makes it extra special. So. Oh,
look, and the fact you were, Nord people, as I said last week, and it's probably a bit easier that it's you than Brett. Brett's speech with being inducted in the Nord Hall of Fame, and where he really hammered the point that how much the 97 Nord Premiership, and it meant more to him than the AFL bit. And there was a few of us, pretty, just absolutely. It was a fantastic speech that night, and it really came from the heart, didn't it?
Oh, most definitely, mate. And obviously, I mean, you look at him now, and he's still mad Norwood. Like, we talk footy, and I mean, I know we're having a pretty disappointing year this year, but we're still mad Norwood. And every time I drive past the parade, you get goosebumps. I don't know why. It's just that feeling of the parade.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, once again joined by Malcolm and Roger James. his story was fantastic with how he got to Port Adelaide and then almost traded to Carlton. And, obviously some premierships up in the country there, and then obviously playing with family as well, which was very, very important.
Yeah, swings and roundabouts, how he so nearly ended up going to Carlton, and then he turns into Port's gun finals player and best in finals in 2004, and I've got no doubt whatsoever there wouldn't be a flag at Port.
Absolutely.
If Roger hadn't been there.
Happened to bump into his sister today at work, and she said, "Did the boys mention her?" She said, "No, that's right. We'll be the silent supporters, but still following Port Adelaide even to today, which is fantastic."
Hopefully she's still following Norwood.
Yes, as well.
That's all right.
Absolutely. So the last couple of weeks, we thank the James brothers for their time and just letting us into what they'd been doing, obviously during their career, but after their career as well.
Yeah, I reckon Apples will be asking for his turn as well.
All right, we might have to get that one on as well. All right, let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
Today we're going to touch base with the basketball finals, the NBA finals, the SANFLW finals as well, the State of Origin, the NRL State of Origin. But, mate, as per usual, kick off with the AFL. Round 10 is completed. Sir Doug Nicholls' round is usually played over 2 rounds, 10 and 11. Port Adelaide, big surprise there against Melbourne on the Friday night.
I gave him a fair chance at home. I thought it was a 50-50 game, but look, they'd have stuck at it. And Butters played one of the great games. When David Wilde's saying it may well be the best game any individual's played in any game he's commentated, that's a pretty fair rap.
Yep.
And look, Butters, Rosie, and Jason Horne-Francis together, dry ground, September.
It's a tantalising combination, isn't it? And you throw Dersma in there once he's healthy and fit.
Pace.
Correct.
There a chance?
Port Adelaide, again, we spoke a couple of weeks ago saying, do you think that Butters has just overtaken Rosie a little bit, but they're all contributing in different ways, aren't they?
3 very, very, very good players.
Port's engine room is definitely set up for the next 10 years at least with those guys fit and firing.
And I think that's a big thing that everyone was sort of thinking, this year it's Port, window or bust. Well, no, I think now with just those 3 in particular, and Todd Marshall still to develop as a key forward. Yes, they're probably a little bit hamstrung in ruck and probably do need another key defender.
Yep.
But I think they're in the window for a fair while.
Absolutely. Mate, we'll quickly talk about the Crows and Port Adelaide as well, but then we'll touch base on Damien Hardwick's decision after we've done that. Port Adelaide, the wet weather seemed to suit those guys down to the tee, but you're right, get them with a bit of pace on some dry ground. I think they're going to be around the mark. And again, that forward line sort of cobbled together a little bit has actually paid dividends.
Dixon to come back, as well. So look, they're certainly one of the teams who could win it.
They're winning a lot of the close ones, and as we've seen over previous years, the teams that are just getting on that roll with a couple of wins in the tight games, it's worth gold at the end of the year, isn't it?
Quote the super coach, John Griffin. It's a fine line between pleasure and pain.
We've heard that one before.
His favourite song.
All right, we move on to the Bulldogs-Adelaide game. Looked like Adelaide were not interested, half a step behind. The Bulldogs were there, ready to play, and showed, didn't it?
The biggest winner of the weekend's Taylor Walker. So the Crows decided to rest him, which I thought was a tad bizarre personally, considering they've got games to come against North Melbourne and West Coast.
Yep.
Out of that, but just think, he doesn't play. The demand for him next year, he's probably made an extra $50,000 sitting back here on the weekend. So
quite possibly.
Well played, Tex.
Adelaide just weren't quite as sharp as they have been. And look, as we've seen with every team this year, they're going to have 1 or 2 bad games. They're a young side, but it was just probably disappointing that against the Bulldogs
to not be competitive. I think that was the big thing, and I think the publicity got it was way over the top. Like trying to say Adelaide could go top this year, pigs fly over the moon too. Look, I just thought that was way over the top.
They could have been in a pretty good position if obviously they got over GWS and Collingwood. They're in control of those games there. They probably let themselves slip a little bit. It's Richmond played a quarter and a bit where it was beautiful, scintillating football. But you can't do that in AFL. You need to be playing at least 3 to 4 pretty good solid quarters.
Yep.
I think where they're at the moment is about where we see them potentially at the end of the year, but certainly positives for the next couple of years is quite good, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, I think that they're there, and we all sit here and we examine on that the ironical bit of Don Pike overruling the recruiting committee, and if the recruiting committee had got their way, Tim English would have been the Crows' ruckman. That changes that Crow side up completely. To actually have a ruckman, not an honest battler, changes it big time.
Totally agree with you on that one. But Adelaide's got a real good look at the next generation of kids coming through without Walker and a few of the others going there. I think the improvement has been quite stark this year compared to obviously what we thought may happen. Are we seeing a little bit of a plateau now, just coming back to it a little bit, understanding the demands of AFL football?
Maybe, but isn't it interesting, without the key figure there who tells people where to go, where to run and all that, they look like, a ship without a rudder.
Yep.
So let's see what happens this week against a very good side in Brisbane.
Very interesting that you say that and make mention of that. Keeping Taylor Walker and Rory Sloane for those extra couple of years, not about touches, kicks, handballs.
A lot of it's direction.
Correct. So then that leads me to Freo at the moment. With Fife coming back, all of a sudden Freo look like they've got themselves a little more organised.
Maybe, yeah.
And look,
that's fair.
Fife isn't exactly setting the world on fire, but his value being on the ground is more than those kicks and touches could ever be. So, and it's a bit like that Hawthorn model and a little bit with Gold Coast and Brisbane, where some of those players from Hawthorn went up to Brisbane and Gold Coast to try and direct a bit of traffic up there and just steady the ship a little bit. All right, mate, we move on. Huge call yesterday morning, or came out on Monday night, that Damien Hardwick from Richmond had decided, look, I've got no more petrol left in the tank. I'm better walking away now to give somebody a bit of a chance to establish themselves for the remainder of the season. And also give Richmond a good opportunity to headhunt the coach that they want to take them forward in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Again, what a fine line. Gets over the line there. I dare say doesn't resign this week.
Mm-hmm.
So if they beat Port on the weekend, suddenly they're back in it, changes everything.
But from what I gathered is that this had been bubbling away since last year.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Brendan Gale had said, hey, come on, mate, we'll go another year. We'll see how we're at the end of the year. I think it was very much in his hands. And being a 3-time premiership coach, he does have the credit, I suppose, in the bank to say, I've done as much as I possibly can. I've got no more petrol left.
Yeah.
And the list and the size, the list and the players that they've got there at the moment, I mean, he's going to lose 2 or 3 of them over the next couple of years, and whether he had the petrol to be able to regenerate that team in those few years, I can understand. I mean, obviously being there 13 years.
Yeah, look, it's a long time to coach, and as a few people have said, 10 years is nearly the optimum. So he's been there a long time. It is time for a change. Wish him all the best for the future.
Absolutely.
That's probably the only way to look at it.
Yeah. Do you see him coaching anywhere else maybe next year, or do you think it'll be the year after?
I think it'll probably be the year after.
Yeah.
If you're saying you're burnt out, and it is a demanding role, so I don't think you're recovering, because let's be honest, clubs are already talking about recruiting for next year.
Yes.
So you start pre-season.
Halfway through the year.
So, I think you really need to have another year off.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of talk about potentially going up to Gold Coast, potentially coming to Port Adelaide. Tasmania, exactly. So there's a lot of water to go under the bridge there. And like you said, he's served his time brilliantly at the Richmond Football Club, and wherever he ends up, in whatever role he ends up in, I think he's going to be fantastic at.
I think the other point, which is fascinating for me, and I actually did run into Kane Corns yesterday, and we spoke about it briefly, that Ken Hinckley gets a lot of heat from Port supporters, yet he's so well respected within the game. He's in demand. Essendon wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
He was offered a contract.
Yes.
There was rumours around that Gold Coast were offering a contract as well, and they're saying now Richmond. So isn't it ironic that he is so well respected within the industry?
It's also interesting that the supporters are the ones that are driving it, and I know you can't listen to the supporters when it comes to making decisions like that. But at the moment, Port seem to be playing for Ken in a way that they haven't been for quite some time.
Again, it's such a fine line, though. Like, you think the kick from Sydney Sydney goes half a yard further. One other decision, like if Jonas had correctly been paid the free kick against him for the dangerous tackle, which it should have been, appalling umpiring, by the way, that umpire should be dropped, changes everything.
Yep.
So it is fine.
It is. All right, we'll leave that one as it is. We'll move on. North Melbourne v Sydney with the controversy. Oh. Mate, I knew you'd have something to say about this. I didn't put it on the run sheet. I wanted to surprise you with it.
I'm sorry. I've got no sympathy for North Melbourne. The rule's been there for over 10 years. I'm sorry. If you need to take your shoes and socks off to count, you don't deserve to win. 75, it's updated every quarter. So it's not like it's...
Well, they were actually made aware of it by the AFL umpire on the boundary. Saying you're getting close, you need to keep an eye on it.
And still stuff it up. It's
all right. Yeah, there was somebody coming off for an injury, and then also someone coming off for the rotation. But
1 minute to go.
Yes,
let's play this smart.
Yep.
Double check the I's, cross the T's. No, extraordinary. Look, you're aware that it did throw reserves if that was a rule, and you've got the only one official, and he's playing as well, and there's a mistake there. Yeah, mistake.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. We're talking the elite level. No sympathy for North Melbourne whatsoever, personally.
North Melbourne obviously had their coach depart the previous week. Brett Ratton steps in. There was an obvious uplift that always happens with a team that has a coach that departs. North Melbourne would be killing themselves that they're in with a great opportunity.
Let's also be honest with that. That area is so bad that if that's another nationality playing cricket, we'd be accusing that of match fixing.
Mm-hmm.
So stop being this Australian righteousness. We never do anything wrong.
Yep.
It's an atrocious error.
Yes, spot on. Sydney were lucky to get out of jail on that one, to be honest with you. Ball was down their end, so you never know what might have happened, but at the end of the day, the free kick in 50 metres was paid.
And ironically, there was a Sydney event that night celebrating previous premierships and that in Melbourne, and Rick Harley was there, and Rick did say the mood, while it was a different way and not a great way to win, he said it certainly helped the night.
Hey, 4 points is 4 points, isn't it?
It may have added a couple of zeros on a couple of things which got auctioned. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Everyone's a winner, and unfortunately everyone's a loser in that case. All right, mate, we move on. Freo did the job against Geelong. Bit of a surprise for both of us.
Yeah, a little bit, geez. But the old golden rule almost, if in doubt, tip the home side. No Dangerfield. I think we're really realising, because he was dominating. He was back to his best.
He was indeed.
And he's in the handful of the best players in the comp.
A couple of slow rounds early on. We thought that might be the case, considering they played in the grand final. It's always a couple of weeks behind everybody else, and then all of a sudden he hit a purple patch, doesn't play, and the results are quite stark. And Cameron was on fire early on in the year, and haven't really heard a lot from him in the last couple of weeks, but that can change pretty quickly.
He's got the ball. His stats, just getting the ball, still been okay, but not kicking goals.
Yep.
And they need more goals from him.
Absolutely. Brisbane defeating the Suns by 43 points. No real surprise there. But, Gold Coast were around the mark for almost 3 quarters.
And then Brisbane's last quarter
was just amazing.
Pretty was very, very, very impressive.
The Suns are really improved this year. And look, I hope they make finals for Stuart Dew, but I just see them maybe finishing that 9th or 10th. But I think they're starting to play some pretty good footy. Essendon defeating Richmond by a point. I actually watched a bit of this game, and boy, there was some crazy decisions.
It was a weird game because Essendon played the better footy all night.
Yes,
but managed to be behind.
Yep.
I couldn't work out that Richmond just continually allowed Essendon to chip it around, use it. I thought it cried out a couple of times, hey, let's go one-on-one and let's force more contests here. And then some just bizarre errors where Richmond, the three of them behind the ball, all way too close together.
Yep.
Now, to try and say, Grimes got an unlucky bounce, but he should have been 5 yards further back. Yep. I'm watching that going, where are you? Hang on, you're not an inexperienced kid.
And I reckon there was a quick kick out of defence that ended up going to the centre of the ground rather than along the boundary. Yeah, it was a bit of a comedy of errors, wasn't it?
And then Rewalt where he socketed it out, where he would have been better off even lying down on the ball, even getting caught holding the ball.
Yep, just to keep it there, keep it in the area, or at least allow them to reset.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was 1 point victors to Essendon there. Bottom of the table clash, Hawthorn v the Eagles. I think we got a bit of a look at what a potential waffle or SANFL side against the AFL side the result may have been.
Yeah, I know they've got 8 million, but to lose to Hawthorn by 20 goals, I'm sorry. I'm actually surprised that Simpson survived the week. So,
yep. 22-10 to 4-6 is a damning stat, but I don't think there's much more that the Eagles can do at the moment as they're waiting for Adam Simpson. You're looking for. There's not much more the Eagles can do at the moment. Do we potentially see Simpson moving on at the end of the year as well?
I would think so.
Touch and go one.
I'll be very surprised if he stays.
Carlton v Collingwood. This one was built up to be a bit of a big game for the Blues. A bit like Adelaide, just didn't quite turn up, did they?
But they still look just so dimensional that it's Curnow, McKay or bust. And you're watching at the moment going, hang on, where's your chip? Where's your run? Where's your change up?
Yep.
And yeah, it's
coming in. They're relying on Saad to do a lot of that off the halfback flank, but you can't have the ball in his hand 24/7. It just doesn't work that way.
But at the moment, they look, even on TV, they look predictable.
Yep.
You're not even there, and you go, well, this is going to go to Mackay, this is going to go to Curnow.
Yep.
And more took him to the cleaners.
Yep. Yeah, and he was having a day out and sort of let him know after the game that he had a lot of fun knowing that ball was just going to come to him each and every time.
So why not go chaos ball and just boot it in low along the ground? Let's play a bit of chaos footy for a while. Moore's intercepting everything. Let's change it up and try something. But that's the thing which I find really frustrating, the lack of chaos footy.
Yep. Well, we go back to Damien Hardwick sort of introduced the imperfection, accepting imperfection.
Force it forward.
Collingwood are doing it well at the moment. I think the Crows are doing it reasonably well at the moment. They used to be quite predictable and going for their big guys up forward, but when you've got Rochelle and Rankin sort of crumbing at their feet, you can afford to get it in there anyway, anyhow, and it's just going to be at their feet. And I think you're right. Carlton just need to adopt the imperfection chaos type ball that could actually pay off for them. All right, and the last game of the round was St Kilda defeating GWS.
Yeah, close game, but the return of the King.
Yeah,
Max King is their most important player. I think he's their best player too, but I think with him and Marshall are their two most important players.
Yep.
You know,
does that make St Kilda a little more one-dimensional with King coming back, or does that sort of free up a couple of those forwards to you know how you talk about your key forward who takes your number one back, your second takes your second back, and so on and so on.
Hopefully, he's a bit, and if he crumbs, you've got Higgins and Butler.
That's what I'm sort of asking. Yeah.
Yes, you can say it's a bit more dimensional, but hey, King's pretty special.
Absolutely. And Ross Lyon is very methodical in his approach, so I can understand the methodical approach. Yeah. All right, mate, we move on. Round 11. Sydney v Carlton at the SCG. Wow.
If in doubt, go the home side. That's my only one for that.
I sort of expect Carlton a result. Look, I'm going to pick Carlton in an upset.
Yeah,
it's a toss of the coin.
It is a toss of the coin,
and I think they're probably going to burn me because I have picked them a few times this year and they have burned me. But I reckon they might just get the job done over Sydney. All right, we move on. St Kilda v Hawthorn.
I'll go St Kilda.
St Kilda as well for me on that one. This is a big test for the Dockers. Melbourne v Fremantle.
Yeah, and no Oliver. Oliver's out for a
extended period.
Yeah, could go either way, but I'll still go Melbourne.
I'll back Melbourne. One, it's in Melbourne, and I think Freo are just starting to get their legs going, but I don't think they'll have enough firepower. Although I said that against Port Adelaide last week, and they proved me wrong. So we'll see how we go. Geelong v GWS.
A lot of injuries for GWS. They've lost 2 to concussion protocols. And Kelly's out as well with a hamstring.
Yep.
Nick Haynes was one on the concussion. Trying to remember the other one.
Yep.
But no, I'll go Geelong down there.
Second shortest odds of the weekend being that it's at GMHBA Stadium. You can't go past Geelong down there. The Suns v the Bulldogs up in Northern Territory.
So it's
IOS Stadium.
Neutral game. I'll go Western Bulldogs.
I'll go the Bulldogs too, but only just.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a bit close.
Should be a good game.
And just going back to GWS in the previous game, that battled pretty well all year. I'm actually quite impressed with how they've been playing, and the Suns are in the same boat, but I think the Bulldogs in this case. The Eagles v Essendon over in Perth.
I wouldn't tip the Eagles against Kelvinator C grade at the moment. So
that's pretty kind, I think.
Yeah.
Essendon as well for me. Obviously, the shortest priced favourites. Gamble responsibly, of course. Huge game here now. Port Adelaide v Richmond.
I know the new coach bit and that first week and all that, but I'm going to go for Port. I just got a feeling those three on the G might light up.
I'll go Port Adelaide as well, mate. I'm sort of in your boat going, yes, I know Richmond are going to come out and have a point to prove. But Port are on such a roll at the moment. I mean, 7 in a row, looking for 8. They've got a good opportunity against Richmond. So, yeah, it goes against my better judgment to back Port every now and then. But on this occasion, I think you might be right. So I'll go with Port as well. Collingwood v North Melbourne.
Next
it is. Collingwood it is. And to finish off the round, Adelaide v Brisbane. Intriguing, this one.
It is, but I'll go Brisbane. They are,
They don't travel that well sometimes.
I just think they're a better side.
Yeah.
But mind you, paying out injured and concussion probably evens it up a little bit. That does weaken them in defence.
Yep.
So if the Crows can cut out Harrison Andrews like they cut out Wilkie a couple of weeks ago from intercepting, I think it could be a close game.
Okay. Yeah, I think Brisbane as well. As much as, again, want to pick the Crows as well, and they've burnt me a few times as well. It does happen from time to time. But, I think Brisbane, you're right, are just going to have that little bit of class about them. And you watch, Adelaide will probably kick 8 goals in the first quarter and make us look silly. Anyway, all right, mate, we move on. SANFL, obviously there were no games last weekend, but South Australia defeating Western Australia.
Yeah, a battle on a weird time slot, let's be honest. 3:10 on a Friday afternoon. I don't get, while the players want to play at Adelaide Oval, that's fine. But surely, therefore, the week before, after the Crows v St Kilda game, which was a 12:40 game on the Saturday, surely that game could have started at, say, 3:30 on the Sunday. You've already got 30,000 people there.
Yep.
5 to 10,000 are going to hang around.
Yep.
The start of the state game on Friday. Sorry.
Yep.
My understanding is there was less than 200 people in Adelaide Oval. It was like a Sheffield Shield crowd.
Yep. Obviously, it was made for radio and TV and like we talked about, the recruiters. But well done to South Australia, back-to-back, I believe.
That's the last 4 against WA.
There you go. So thank you for correcting me on that one, mate.
50-48 now it is against WA.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I knew that we'd won the last 2 because they were tight contests as well. So very good. And McBean was all over it early on and really sort of set them up and got them going.
Yeah, and then I got a couple of people said lucky free in the last quarter. I actually thought it was there, but I actually thought I haven't watched the whole replay again yet. But from what I've seen so far, I actually thought the umpiring was pretty good. So yeah.
And Jimmy Rowe taking home the Foss Williams medal.
Yeah, just use the ball, runs to the right spot. I still think he's
hasn't nominated for the mid-season draft, which was interesting.
I think he's a bit decided. I think he's settled doing him. I think Jimmy's a pretty good kid. He's he's not a kid, but wants to work.
Yep.
Doesn't like just the footy bit, I think. So, yeah, good luck to him.
Also a bit of work-life balance, and the SANFL probably provides that work-life balance. Fantastic. All right, mate, we move on to this week's game. Norwood v Adelaide at Norwood Oval. Adelaide as well. Can't make a case for Norwood at the moment, and Adelaide just seem to be very, very well drilled and organised, and their AFL team's probably showing that. West Adelaide v the Eagles.
I'll go the Eagles.
I'll go the Eagles as well. Bulldogs v the Tigers. Centrals v the Tigers.
While Centrals have improved, Glenelg have been pretty impressive the last few. I saw part of the game against North Adelaide.
Yep.
Decided to drop my iPad so I didn't see the whole game. I've had better weeks.
Always the way.
Yeah, leave a couple of things out. I'll go Glenelg.
Glenelg as well for me on that one. The Tigers had a few representatives in that state game last week who did play very, very well, and I expect them to carry on their form. This one's an interesting, mouth-watering battle. The Roosters, North Adelaide v Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I'd like to see who comes in, how many AFL things they'll go, but I'll tip North to rebound.
I'll pick North Adelaide as well at home, and they've had the wood over the Port Magpies or Port Power for a couple of games at least. So I'll pick North Adelaide as well. And to finish off the round at Flinders University Stadium, Panthers v Sturt.
I'll go Sturt. You've just got to at the moment.
Hard to go past Sturt as well. This is where I'm at as well with it. Good luck to all the teams on the weekend, and let's see if Norwood can get their first win and whether Sturt go on with their unbeaten record to the season 2023.
Yes.
All right, mate. Very, very quickly, we'll talk about Adelaide United, unfortunately eliminated in the semi-final.
Yeah, same again. Result, I think that's 3 years in a row. That's where they've gone out.
Central Coast again being their bogey team at the moment. Yep.
So, disappointing. Season promised a lot at various times. Seemed to run out of petrol right towards the end. Fell away in that last month. So, disappointing end by Adelaide United.
Certainly their young ones. Carl Veer has played their young ones consistently throughout the season. So, getting some really good results with those young ones. The problem is they play really, really well and then they get offered contracts overseas. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You want to help a player in their career, but you also want to keep them too.
Yeah, and Riley McGree getting knocked out for Middlesbrough in the championship finals he had a couple of half chances and just got one cleared off the line. Things just didn't quite work.
And especially in soccer or football. It's a fine line between pleasure and pain in all these sports that we're talking about. The EPL, mate, Man City finishes top. Yeah,
just Arsenal have fallen right away. So.
Well, that was my next question. Arsenal season, success or failure, do you think?
Bit of both.
I'm in the same camp going, promised so much, but just under-delivered at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, and just in the end where it looked like it was going to go to the wire.
Yep.
It's turned out to be a pretty comprehensive championship for Man City.
And Man City, for the last couple of years, have been all over the Premier League. So it's up for a few to start chasing.
And there was more rumours during the year there was going to be penalties against Man City, and that seems to have died a bit of a death. So we've just got to wait and see.
Well, you never know. End of the season coming up, they might follow it through a little bit more. It might end up for next year. All right, mate, we'll take a quick break. Once we return from the break, we'll talk about the SANFL W, the basketball, and the NRL State of Origin.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
All right, mate, we'll talk about the NBA Finals. Interesting finals series. We did have a couple of lower-ranked seeded teams make the final, especially the conference finals. But Denver go on to defeat LA 4-0. That was quite comprehensive in the end.
Yeah, surprisingly
Very
so
surprising.
Comprehensive.
Yeah.
You thought Denver might win it, but not kabang like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the moment, Miami leading Boston Celtics 3-1. Game 5 on Sunday. Boston really needed to win today to stay in it, and they did. So it'll be very interesting. LA. I just can't. I'm still shaking my head at that one there, but I think it looks like it's going to be a Denver-Miami final. Yep. But we'll see how we go. You never know. By this time next week, we could be talking about it all changing around. All right, we move on. SANFLW. The final rounds were held on the weekend, and we have our final four. Panthers v the Bulldogs.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one that South have just won a lot of close games. Now, the game is at Noarlunga, so I'll go South, but honestly, I that is a toss of the coin.
Absolutely. It is a doubleheader at Noarlunga as well.
I don't quite get that.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Well, considering it, so Norwood play Sturt 2:10 on the afternoon when the Crows game starts at 4:40. You would have thought a lot of Norwood and Sturt supporters may well go to Adelaide Oval.
Yes.
I don't get why it's not a triple header on the Saturday with 18s and 16s at Norwood, followed by the women's game. I find that I just don't get it that why not have so Norwood finished third.
Yep.
And I couldn't have cared if it was Sturt.
Sure.
Have it at Unley, whatever.
Yeah.
But I just don't get it why we're playing Norwood versus Sturt on a Sunday afternoon at Noarlunga. I'm sorry, for the average supporter like myself, I would have probably been there on the Saturday.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't.
I'm not going to go to Noarlunga on the Sunday.
No. Is it a case of whoever finishes top would have hosted? So if the Bulldogs had finished top, would it have both been out of the Elizabeth?
You suspect so.
Yeah. And it sort of looks a bit that way.
I just don't get why we're not using...
Mm-hmm.
We played triple headers other times during the year.
Yep.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Norwood Sturt after, and the Norwood Juniors game started at 11 on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So 11-1 basically.
Yep.
This game could have started at 3.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Okay, interesting. Maybe it was already pre-planned that was the way it was going to go. I mean, if Nord had finished top, then they would have had to try to fit everybody in as well.
Yes.
So it is an interesting one. But anyway, the Panthers v. the Bulldogs. Who's your tip, mate?
Because it's at Noarlunga, I'll go south. But
absolutely.
It's just interesting, the bigger ground.
Yep.
So that always that extra kick, which is massive in women's footy to score.
Well, the Ponderosa's not exactly
it's a big ground as well.
It's not
so
small
at least
either.
In that way, it's the two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, look, Ben Hunt's done a great job with the Dogs. So,
and we've been talking about them just steadily getting there, winning a couple of games here or there, and it's allowed them to finish second.
Well, it's the first time the women's Central's women's side have made the finals. Yep. So,
they did it in style, played 12, won 9, lost 3, 18 points for the year, and a reasonable percentage as well. So, congratulations to the Bulldogs and best of luck on the weekend. And then obviously the second final was Nord v Sturt.
And the Mailers at Sturt got a few back, and they were very impressive against Glenelg, which I thought that game would have been a close game.
Yes.
And Sturt blew them out of the water and really hammered them. They won easily.
Do you think the bigger ground will suit Sturt more or will it suit Nord? I mean, both Nord and Sturt are not exactly huge grounds.
I do think Sturt have probably got a few more scoring options.
Yep.
Obviously, I hope I'm wrong.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll go Sturt.
I think I have to back you on that one, mate. A couple of representatives came back a couple of weeks ago, and since they've been back after their state representation, Sturt have been on fire. So, yes, I'm with you. I hope that I'm wrong with that tip, but good luck to Sturt and certainly backing them. The SANFL W ladder finished South Adelaide top, Central second, Norwood third, Sturt fourth, Glenelg fifth, North Adelaide sixth, Woodville West Torrens seventh, and West Adelaide eighth.
Probably the interesting one there is North Adelaide, who've been the dominant team in SANFL W, the reigning premiers. Not making finals is a big upset.
Finishing with 4 wins and 8 losses. Yeah, it is. So, obviously, South Adelaide with 10 wins and 9 to Central, 7 to Norwood and 6 to Sturt and 6 to Glenelg. So, yeah, very, very close in percentage. All right, last one, mate. The NRL State of Origin comes to Adelaide.
Look, while I'm not a huge rugby man, it's a big event to get it here. And, it does get 40-odd thousand at Adelaide Oval. So it's a big event next week. I think it's next Wednesday.
Yeah, the 29th.
I think.
Yep, that's correct.
So it's Tuesday, is it?
Tuesday, Wednesday, yes.
Yeah, so big event here. Be interesting to see how it goes.
It's, the State of Origin always brings up that, do we go back to South Australia v Victoria and so on and so on. It'll ignite the debate, but is it good that we get game one here in SA? It sounds like it's going to be a sellout.
Yeah, and it may well get the 50,000. Oh, it's fantastic.
It should be amazing.
It's great
Absolutely.
for SA.
Just following up the ladder at the moment, Panthers sitting top, Rabbitohs second, Sharks third, Broncos fourth, Storm fifth, Dolphins sixth, Warriors seventh, and the Raiders taking out the top 8. So some movers and shakers in there, and the Dolphins are still hanging around in their first year.
Yep.
We might cover that a little bit more next week. All right, mate, we're going to take a quick break, and tonight's special guest in a 2-part series is Tim Ginever.
Great man, Timmy G. Very funny man.
Well, we will say Norwood Football Club, Port Adelaide Football Club.
And Woodville
Football Club. Yep. But we had to chuck in the Nord there because it's going to be an entertaining interview asking him about that. And obviously his role in the media, which we'll get to in part 2 next week.
Definitely.
All right. We'll take a quick break, and once we come back, Timmy G.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Past players, past legends, past legends.
Tonight we're privileged to have Tim Ginever on the line. Tim, 314 games for Port, 302 goals, 7-time Port's Premiership player. Port Adelaide captain 94-97, Port best and fairest 94-97, South Australian Footy Hall of Fame in 2015. There is another premiership we will come back to in that as well, which Tim tries to hide about. So we will come back to that, and Dwayne Stewart messages him each year with the most significant achievement of his footy career. And also Port coach as well, Tim, but you weren't ever up for long service leave there, mate. Welcome aboard.
Right, so let's get the insults out the way. All right?
Thanks for joining us, mate. That's all we've got time for. We've done all your stats. That's all we've got time for. Mate, let's start, obviously, back with your junior days, obviously growing up down in Port Adelaide there.
Yeah, look, it was a bit different. I was one of 10 kids with 5 older brothers. So
Seventh child syndrome, correct. But I suppose the competition started in the backyard, like a lot of families would have in the 70s, and it was the best breeding ground, I suppose, you could get as far as footy, cricket, tennis, whatever we could play. We did, and my mum had a bit of a theory where we could invite any mate we wanted to in the backyard, because she said, well, look, if you're all in my backyard, at least I knew where mine were. And, can't argue with that.
So we always had a backyard full of sport going on, and it could be, like I said, any of those sports that were happening, and it could be all different age groups. And, of course, being that little bit younger, it was you have to earn your spot. So, and there was no there was no compensation for age or size. But, so that's probably where the first competitive competition would have happened in my life, and then it developed into playing for your school and for, well, I would say a local club, but it didn't really work out like that for me. It ended up, we were living in Mansfield Park, and my brother John, who was going to Woodville High at the time, who's 10 years older than me, his mate talked him into playing for Semaphore Park. So that was like donkeys away, but if it wasn't Dad in the combi van when he wasn't doing afternoon shift, we'd all get in the back of that with our mates, and off we go down Bower Road to Semaphore Park's Oval, then on Military Road back in those days. And then if it wasn't that somebody else would be picking us up and bringing all our mates, because we were probably half the teams were loaded up with Ginevers and their friends. So it was quite bizarre, and I love those days, because that was part of the Port Adelaide Junior Footy Leagues, and that's where I first started playing competitively.
And what isn't generally known as either is you're actually a Woodville junior, and you played in a Woodville 1978 mini league premiership side.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, well, so we were zoned to Woodville back then, and the mini league, of course, you have all the teams play, and then they got a representative side, and we played this huge carnival at Woodville Oval, and ended up playing Sturt in the grand final, and Todd Viney was captain of Sturt. And we ended up with our coaches of Ralph Sewer and Lindsay Heaven getting up and winning the grand final. And it was bloody fantastic.
What time did you get home with those two as coach?
I think they might have celebrated and left us behind. But it was a terrific day. And I remember, I think it was Woodville's first ever premiership of any level or any level, and the Coca-Cola Mini Cup, as they called it. And it was just a fantastic day. And Greg Anderson actually played in the side as well.
Yeah, I am looking at that side as we speak. Yep. And, of course, coached by Ralph. Well, we're not sure. Is Ralph off the stage from the 80s, the 80s show we had a couple of years ago yet? Tim, is he still speaking?
He was still telling stories, wasn't he? I love that, though. When you get a bloke like Ralph and he's in the mood to tell stories, you just let him go.
Oh, he was... I reckon he would have just kept going all night if you hadn't stopped him. He was gold. So
he was fantastic, and I love getting guys like that to reminisce about those times, and that was a really good day.
Sportsman's Night's
really?
absolutely gold, really.
It was. He was incredible that day. So I'm not sure. He was certainly keener to be keep talking than Paul Truck Bassani was to draw the raffle, that's for sure.
Could not get Truck to do anything that day.
He was going to pull a hamstring running the other way, Truck.
Oh, God, that was funny. Yes. That was good value. Bloody good day.
So Mansfield Park and then Woodville High, Tim.
Yeah, so it was a bit unusual, being Mansfield Park. Not many kids went to Woodville High. They mainly went to what was originally Angle Park Tech, which then changed into the Parks Community Centre when they redeveloped that whole high school. And it was all of my mates bar one went there. And me and my other mate, we rode our bikes to Woodville every day because my elder brothers had gone there as well. So went up to Woodville High, which had an incredible history of sporting greats, and very strong in hockey it was, and also Australian rules footy with many a good name out of that. I think when the Advertiser did its recent
it was a
high school teams, I think we got third or something like that. So because there was some really good names in it. So yes, played footy at Woodville High, and even had your good self, Malcom, umpire a couple of games. So
yeah, we will get to that.
They were good times. And then, like I said, I played in the Port Adelaide Junior Footy League as well at Semaphore Park at the time, which ended up becoming West Lakes, which then merged with St Michael's, which then became St Michael's Old Scholars, High Marsh, and West Lakes. So Smosh West Lakes now. And I actually remember when we swapped over from Military Road over to this new ground that they built, and that was I think the back end of 1978 for the start of the 79 season, and that's where the ground is today.
Let's not gloss over the fact that also you played in the 78 Sapsars estate side, which I have got the photo in front of me. I admit I am trying to pick a couple out there as well. So
yeah, I haven't got it in front of me, Malcolm, but here's some names that I can remember. Up the back left-hand corner, there's a tall guy.
Yes.
His name is Peter Sexton. He actually played in the 36ers championship in 1986.
Yep.
Yeah. So he ended up being a very good basketballer. And I ran into Pete just this year when I went to MC their Legends room, which Brett Maher and Scott Ninnis talk in, and they said, "Oh, Timmy, this is Pete." I said, "Pete Sexton." And he said, "Timmy, you remember?" I said, "Remember? Mate, we're under 12 champions together. How could I forget?" So, yeah, it was really good to catch up with him and have a good yarn about that trip. But, of course, Todd Viney
was the captain. He's a fair bit taller than anyone else in that side, just quietly.
Yeah,
he's almost as tall as the coach.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And for that reason, he played in the ruck as well. But Todd Viney was the captain, and it was guys. It's quite a successful team when you look at it. I think there's Wayne Marnie, Darryl Borlace, Roger Girdham.
I thought it was Daisy. Yep.
Roger Girdham's in there. David Foote played a lot of good footy for Torrens. Who else was in there? Oh, there's a couple. Gary Argus played for Sturt.
Yeah, and Kilburn Motorcycle and Tattoo Club. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Kicked 5 in a state game against Victoria.
Correct, he did. Oh, geez, I'm just trying to remember some of the other lads that are in there.
Todd Viney in a mini league game kicked the casual 7 goals for Sturt in a mini league game.
Yep.
And got a standing ovation at Unley. And
he was a freak.
Yeah.
Wow. He was amazing. He used to backspin. He'd grab the ball and then backspin pirouette out of packs, and the kids just didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know what was going on how to tackle him. He was like the Tassie Devil on the Bugs Bunny show. It was amazing, but the way he pulled through, and he had so much power already. But it was quite an irony in that. And I was talking about this to some Sturt guys, where that was the last time I saw Todd. It was the under-12 championship. Yep. And we went, and ironically, I heard that the Sapsarza team's going to Albury Wodonga this year. And that's where we went to play the championship.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, we had a rest day, and I think it might have been a Saturday. And anyway, Todd's billet and my billet, because you remember the days of billeting where you just got shoved with a random family somewhere. Yep. Off you go, 12-year-old kid. Yeah. See you later.
Nowadays,
I did that in Melbourne one year. So
we all did it.
We did, yeah.
Yep.
Pete, it's bizarre, isn't it, that you think about it these days.
Absolutely.
They wouldn't dare let it happen. But so we caught up and they said, we're going to go and see this new movie in town. Do you want to come? And Todd and I said, yeah, no worries. So anyway, we got the popcorn and that sort of thing and sat down. And I said, do you know this movie? He said, no, got no idea. And I'm not lying. The movie was Grease, 1978.
Oh, jeez.
Can you believe it? We saw
classic.
Grease together for the first time ever. So it's quite a moment in our histories. But yeah, what happened was he was such a good tennis player.
Yes.
Because he was a state tennis player at the same time. He pursued tennis and off he went. And we never saw him again because, you expect to come across him in juniors or other state teams, and we just didn't see him. And, of course, he came back off the circuit when he was 19, I reckon, and he came back to play for Sturt.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we played him round 2, I reckon, Footy Park, 85, and I'm realising he's playing, and I'm pretty excited. Firstly, I've got to get the job done, got to win first.
Yep.
And we win, and then I'm beelining him to go and shake hands, and I didn't know whether he'd remember me, and he ran straight to me as well and beelined me. And I've got this photo, this black and white photo of me, him, and Greg Whittlesey coming off the ground, and me and him smiling, beaming at each other as we've just sort of shaken hands and reconnected. It's a great photo, one I absolutely love, and I probably should get a copy and send it to him. Yeah.
It's amazing how those childhood memories and childhood friends carry right through even to today.
Oh, Greg Whittlesey is one of the great blokes in footy as well.
Yep.
He's awesome
an absolute ripper, that fella. He cleaned me up and picked me up and apologised.
Yeah.
And here we are talking about an under-12 Sapsaza that's stood the test of time.
Now, let's get to it, Tim. Your greatest achievement of your football career, the thing which comes first, the thing you hold dearly, celebrate each year. Of course, you played in a Norwood under-15 competition premiership side. And don't you revel in being reminded of that. And I would like to congratulate Dwayne Stewart that he does message you.
And let me say, I'm a massive Norwood supporter and I respect Port Adelaide immensely. And when I heard that, I said, Malcolm, you're pulling my leg, right?
Oh, no,
he goes, no, this is dead set true. Yeah. So we had to get you on, mate. We had to ask the question.
Oh, Pete,
and you played with Stormboy.
Yes, I did, Greg Rowe. But Pete, every person in life has a sin on their soul, and this is mine.
Very good.
And I've tried all types of baptisms, you name it, to remove it, but it keeps coming back to haunt me.
Oh, he was pretty happy when I interviewed and when I found out about it because he wasn't exactly going to mention it when I interviewed him originally, and then I've gone, Tim, how about your Norwood Premiership? He's gone, oh Jesus, how'd you find that?
You know, I blame for that, Malcolm, for actually reigniting it. Is a bloke called Terry Barch. He played some footy at Norwood and coached a fair bit in amateur league and country leagues. And I was dealing with Terry Barch at because I was at the Little Heroes, and he was told transport, and they were big supporters at a massive golf day. And Terry and I got on like a house on fire, and of course loved our footy. And one day he said to me, "Hey, did you play at Norwood?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Don't bullshit me." He said, I've got a yearbook from 1980 that says the under-15s, congratulations, won the night premiership on blah, 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 blah. And here's the lineup. And he said, and there's a T Ginever in it. I said, "I'm sorry, Terry, I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "That's you." I said, "Oh." I said, "Look, it is. It is." And he said, "How did that happen?" Of course, I told him the story, and he's going, "This is unbelievable." Anyway, he let it run riot. I think he actually put it in a bloody, it must have been a Norwood newsletter.
I can't remember how I found it. May have been with Stewie. I reckon it might have been having a chat with Dwayne Stewart, and Dwayne might have brought it up, I reckon.
Well,
I don't think it was Fanta, I admit that. No. I think it was Stewie.
Well, see, Fanta went over to the Bulldogs, and he was out of the state for a while, so I was happy about that because he always mentions it. So I was pretty happy. But it was an amazing set of circumstances, Pete, on how it happened. So my primary school teacher and footy coach at the time in '78, who sort of pushed me through to the under 12 Sapsaza, he just gave me a phone call a couple of years later and said, "Oh, Timmy, how you going, da-da-da?" I said, "Yeah, good, mate." I'm thinking, "Mr. Robertson, what are you calling me for?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm coaching in this under-15 competition." And I said, "Oh, that's good." Yeah. And I'm thinking, why is he ringing me? Maybe he's coaching Woodville, you know. And he goes, and I'm actually coaching Norwood, and I'd love you to come out and play. I said, "I'm not coming out and play Norwood. No way." And he goes, "But yeah, it's under-15 competition." I said, "Well, you understand, I have to play for Woodville anyway." I said, "I'm in the zone." He said, "Woodville don't have a team." And I said, "Oh, ripper," because this is right at the beginning of under-15s being created.
Yep.
And I said, "Well, that's great news." I said, "I can go and play for Port Adelaide." And I'm thinking, "You ripper, the dream's coming true." And he goes, "Port don't have a team in this year either." I said, "Oh, God." I said, "All right, well, I don't care anyway. I'm not playing." And he started going. He said, "No, I really need you," and blah, blah, and all this. And then he just said one thing that clicked my ears up. And he goes, and we play on a Wednesday night at Theberton. And I went, "Nighttime?" And he goes, "Yeah, nighttime." Now, you got to remember, this is 1980.
Yeah.
The only night games that were played back then were the Ardith Cup.
Yeah. Yep.
And things like that. Like, night footy was a rarity.
Yes.
And I never forget, I was thinking, wow, because I used to go to Norwood and watch, you know, Norwood play East Fremantle or something like that. And they'd wear that black stuff under their eyes and the white footies and all that. And I said to him, "So it's at night time?" And he said, "Yeah, it's at night time." And I said, "Can I wear that black stuff under my eyes?" And he said, "You can wear whatever you want, just play." And so I went out, and I'll never forget, I had to train Mondays with the under-17s, and that's when I sort of first ran into a bloke called Gary McIntosh. And I sat in the rooms, and I was always early because my teacher took me up there, and I'd sit there, and then I'd watch all the boys come in. And it's a really interesting dynamic compared to Port Adelaide, and where you had all the Blazers coming in from the colleges, and then you'd come all these scruffy kids coming in who come from like the Campbelltown Highs and Gillis Plains and all that. So you had this two distinct groups that was not, you know, sort of bit foreign to me. And then of course blokes like, and I'll never forget the first bloke that went straight up to me was a bloke called James Fantasia, who was just an absolute gentleman and still is, of course. And he just said, "Well, who are you, mate?" And shook my hand, and he just took me under his wing. And then there was a couple other guys. Dwayne Stewart was excellent. David Payne. And when I trained with the 17s, because Gary was he was too good for 15, so he wasn't playing. He was up in the 17s, but those guys were just really nice. And I remember Mr. Fantasia was just, he'd go and watch every training session, you name it, and he was just such a gentleman.
Great man.
Lovely people. So, so we ended up playing, I think it was 5 minor round games we had to play and sort of like and see who was up the top. And then you had to play a semi and a final when we got through to the final. And I remember I was sort of playing half forward, if you like, because I was an underager. And we, I'll never forget, pulling on the Red Sox, the jumper.
Jeez, isn't that bringing the emotion out of you, Timmy G?
The bit that got me the most, the bit that really hurt me, was when I pulled on the navy shorts and this bloody AGC badge was on the shorts.
Beautiful, wasn't it?
And that was just distinctive of Norwood. AGC were a sponsor for forevermore, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I just sat there and looked at these shorts and I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing here? And it was amazing. We got through, like I said, to the final.
Pete's actually got a pair out too.
Did you?
Yep, he's just got a pair
there
out.
You go. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
They'll zip up with the button up.
Yep, beautiful AGC logo we're looking at. I don't really think you'd fit into those these days, Pete.
No, unfortunately not. I might get one leg into them these days.
Well, I don't know what I might have chucked mine out. I think I probably would.
I reckon you've got
I didn't want any evidence.
You've got them framed on your wall, Tim.
But then I ended up. We played the final, and I remember we played. They were called East Torrens, and they were a mixed bag of sort of Torrens and North. And I'm pretty sure Andrew Jarman played, and because I remember this kid, so he had exquisite skills and the like, and I was on the half forward, and we weren't travelling that well, and the coach said to me, like, Timmy, I want you to go in the middle. And I say to Dwayne and Fanner, I say, mate, we were down and you had to put a Port bloke in the middle to bloody give you the victory.
You were a Woodville bloke at that stage.
Well, I was a Woodville bloke at that stage. And anyway, we bloody came back and we won the flag. It was amazing.
And of course, did the Saps, did playing Till Cup happen before you became a Port player, or where did that fit in going to Port in that reaction?
Yeah, that year was 1980, and I was 14 playing in the Port Adelaide Junior Footy League, and I'd you know how they have association medals.
Yep.
I'd won 3 in a row, including the 1981, and Jeff Potter, the famous Port Adelaide champion from the 60s, Jeff Potter's lad was playing at Summerfall Park, and he saw me playing, and he went and said to me one night, do you want to go play at the Oval? And I said, which Oval? And that's what they used to call Alberton in the old days. They used to call it the Oval. And he said, Alberton. I said, oh, wow, would I? I said, but I'm bound to Woodville. And he said, look, leave it with me. And then he went, obviously, to Port and said, you've got to come see this kid. And he's bloody won all the medals and all this crap. And anyway, I was sitting at home one day and this guy knocked on the back door of all things. And I walked out and I said, oh, sorry, mate, Dad's at work. And he said, I'm not here to see Dad, I'm here to see you. It was Malcolm Maiden who coached Port's juniors for
long time.
Years and years. And he said, you know, would you like to come out to Alberton? And I said, oh, look, I'd love to. But I said, I'm a Woodville player. I'm bound to Woodville. And he said, oh, don't worry about that. We'll fix that. And if you're keen, we've got pre-season starting next week. And I said, yes, please. So I went out as a 14-year-old to start training with the under-17s.
Let's be honest. With your junior record, it's quite staggering and, look, let's be honest, disappointing that Woodville were prepared to trade. Like, you and Greg Anderson should have been Woodville players. Now, that it does change things dramatically. Like, you know, Pavlich instead of McGregor, Tim English instead of Jordan Gallucci, etc., etc. Those sort of things change footy. And you and Greg Anderson and with Woodville would have been a distinct difference. And it's, considering if you'd been a junior who hadn't done much, you could I understand it a little bit. But if I've got a kid who's winning every medal in my area, I ain't trading him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nah, it was quite staggering when you think about it. Exactly like you said with Greg as well. Like Greg was also an athletic champion.
Yes.
Like he was winning 200s and 400s at national championships and things like that. And you're going, so he's got athletic ability as well as this amazing footy ability. Like, yeah, it was a bit, it was a bit, what would you say? I think at the time, and I remember talking to my older brother, Nick, who was playing under 17s or 19s at the time. And I said to him, well, Nick, you know, Port want me to go out and all that. Should I, you know, just sort of say no and go to Woodville? He said, don't be so stupid. Yeah. He said, they'll ruin you. And he said, you go out. And it was, I think at the time they were just, you know, how you need good administration. And I think that their finger wasn't on the pulse, exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Because when I finished that tournament with Norwood and we won in 80, there was a bloke called Jock. He was our team manager. He had a beard.
Yeah, Jock O'Reilly.
Jock O'Reilly. Lovely bloke. Ripping bloke.
The late Jock O'Reilly.
Yeah, he was on to me like no tomorrow. Well, he got me and took me and my dad to meet Wally Miller.
Yeah.
So they were on it. And I said the same thing. I said, sorry, I'm bound to Woodville and all this sort of thing. And they said, well, look, we'd love you to come out. And, you know, don't worry about that side of it. We'll be able to fix that and all this sort of thing. And all I could think of was get me out of this room. And Wally was, you could tell like how good he was as a negotiator that day. You know, looking back in hindsight as an adult, not as a kid, I thought to myself, geez, this bloke has just about stitched us. And my dad, who had no idea about any sport or football or anything, was going, well, it sounds pretty good, son.
Wally was the master negotiator at getting the best deal for absolutely Norwood Football Club every single time. Neville Roberts found that out.
Yep.
Yeah, and I desperately want to get out of there in an awful hurry.
Come on, you haven't finished singing the Norwood Club song from going top yet, Tim. Come on.
Can you imagine a parallel universe where McIntosh and Ginever are in the same team week in, week out?
I actually think the two. Let's be honest on that one. The two of you would have loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that story where, look, and you probably got more, full credit to you, that you got more out of Macca when you interviewed him that day at Payneham than I've heard anyone get out of him.
Yeah,
and the story where he banged, whose heads together was it?
Malacallis. Tony Malacallis and me, yeah.
And
the most embarrassing moment of my career.
Oh,
my God, was that embarrassing.
Macca did the Three Stooges impersonation. It was brilliant.
Oh, did he what? It was bloody funny. And Macca would say nothing on the oval. But after that incident, we jogged away and I was just so bloody embarrassed. And he's come past and he said, "Hey, Timmy, that was a good one, wasn't it, eh? Three Stooges." And I said, victim of circumstance.
So is it safe to say that Norwood taught you everything you know?
No, not at all. What it did do, you know what, I was very impressed at how well drilled they were.
Yeah.
And because I was training with the 17s, I was impressed with the way they did their drills and the discipline around where you had to kick the ball and where you had to lead. And there was all these things that I was sort of going, wow, I've never trained like this. And at that stage, I hadn't trained with a senior club. And it was sort of like, wow, this is quite impressive. Then when I went to Port Adelaide, we didn't train like Norwood, and we didn't have those plays in place and the disciplines around where you kick the ball and how you kick the ball and who leads where and all that.
Yeah.
But what I felt at Port Adelaide was this incredible hard edge.
Yeah. Yep.
It was like, this is, that saying where they say, it's football's not about life and death. It's more serious than that.
Yeah.
That's how it felt at Albion.
Oh, and the amount of times, especially big games, finals, Port won because of your desperation. We look afterwards and look at the sides and go, God, we're a better side on paper than that. And then you'd remind yourself, Port were more desperate. Yep. They wanted it. You annihilated Norwood in the final. I reckon Norwood only kicked 2 or 3 goals. And it was just purely that. It was just crash, bash, get it forward, nothing scientific. Forward, next contest, and that's all it was.
The original chaos ball.
Oh.
Yeah, it was 88. It was the second semi-final, and I'll never forget because it was a horrible blustery day, so didn't suit. It then becomes a game of exactly those factors that you're talking about, so it suited us. But I think we only kicked 2-5 for the day, and Rowan Smith came back into the side that day. And I think he kicked 3 in probably the worst conditions going around, and he basically cemented himself for the grand final that day. But it was such a exactly that game. It was all about, okay, it means more to us, and this is how we're going to play.
Now I do want to go back now. So Pete, the first ever time I met Tim I was umpiring Tim. It was a Tuesday afternoon at St Clair, and it was pissing down with rain, and I'm trying to think who you were playing. What side you were playing. But anyway, there was a guy in the opposition called Vince Mayo. How he never played league football has me stuffed, Tim, because he was a gun. Anyway, there was a bit of push behind. And Greg Anderson that day was playing in Sandchews, and he was lairising, and he admits now that he was being a big-headed dickhead, that he'd come back from league footy, had to play for the school because he wasn't allowed to play for St Michael's, etc. And so Vince Mayo, he pushed him a bit behind the play. There wasn't much in it, but I carried on as an umpire. There was, and I've gone yelled out, "Hit him again." They play Norwood next week, and Tim burst out laughing and went, "Good on you, Malcom. That's exactly what he needs." And that was really, I've got on with it. There's a house on fire with Tim ever since from that. Where I reckon a few people you could answer back, "Oh, who do you think you are as a Norwood man?" Where you went, "Yep, actually, he is being a dickhead. He's getting what he deserved."
And Vince Mayo could fight. He was a good little fighter. He went to Findon High and
Findon, that's
right. My now wife went to Findon High as well. She knew him very well. She said, "Oh yeah, cleaned up more than there though."
But just Greg was just a nice. Come on, young fella, pull your head in. Yep. Yeah, we know you can play.
Yep.
But don't be a clown. And now, ironically, Tim is Danny Hanson, good mate of mine's brother-in-law, so I'll be at Hanson family shows with him now.
Yep. Helen.
And with Helen, and Greg actually went one day, yep, Malcolm, you're right. I was a dickhead that day. So, and we moved on, so it's a bit of fun.
No, bloody good man.
And
He's
mate,
a good fella.
You played some Teal Cup in 82?
Yeah, so I was, I got invited out probably from, I had a reasonable sort of start to the season in 82 in the 17s, and they promoted me to 19s. So from that, I got in the squad of players that you recommend, and you get taken to go to Sunday morning trainings for the Teal Cup. And Alan Stewart was coach, and I thought to myself, this is great. I'll just try and impress this year and get myself into the team next year when I'm 17. And I kept training to impress, of course, and Alan kept keeping me in the squad when they were chopping it. And in the end, he said, he announced early, because the squad would normally get announced, sort of last minute. And the last Sunday morning training before the squad was going to be announced on the Tuesday or something, he just stopped training and just said, look, the way he has trained, he said, I'm taking him this year as one of the 3 underage players I'm taking to Brisbane. And I was like, wow, I didn't even have to wait for the moment to get anointed in the squad. And I thought, wow, I'm going. And it was such a bonus, because if you get 2 years at Teal Cup, the second year you're more relaxed about it, or more experienced about it. And this was incredible. So myself, Andrew Jarman and Greg Anderson were the underages, I think. Yep. And then we went away to Brisbane.
A few names in that side: Michael O'Brien, Jars, as you said, Stephen Barrett, Peter Simmons for North Adelaide, Adelaide Uni Premiership coach.
David Payne.
Yeah, Payne. David Kapler. Probably the greatest achievement you've got in that, Tim, is you somehow managed to get on the back row in the photo, which is quite ridiculous. I
don't know. It's probably the only time I've ever been on the back row.
Yes, I was thinking that.
You sure you're not standing on a couple of phone books, mate?
The photographers are full, I think.
So keep looking. Dwayne Russell.
Dwayne was captain.
Dale Lowby. Pete Brinkworth. So, there's a few in there.
Yeah, good little team, that one.
Of course, too, the guy, Jamie McPhee, Australian under-19 cricket captain.
Correct.
Yes, he could. Australian under-19 captain, and the side was Mark Taylor, Mark Waugh, and Steve Waugh, and Danny Buckingham and Ramshaw, and he was the best player of the lot of them.
Wow.
Jamie McPhee. So trivia
a
there.
Good bloke too.
Yes,
good bloke. Jamie.
I was with him. He was over in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago.
And did
I reckon
Sorry, go on.
So I think Michael Murphy was in that team as well. Played at the Bays and Brisbane, and Michael Murphy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And did I read right that you made the 82 All-Australian Teal Cup team as well?
Yeah, I did. I remember I was on the bench for the first game, and Dwayne Russell came up to me, and I was just excited to be playing. And he just said, listen, you'll get a chance at some stage, make an impact. And I thought, yeah, right, I will. And I got on, I reckon, just before half-time, and took a mark, ran around, kicked a goal, and then the second half, I think I ended up kicking 3 or 4 in the first game, and then played the second game and kicked another 3, and then I think in the final against Victoria, I kicked a couple again, and so it was like, no, you're in the All-Australian, which was staggering. So I was sort of like,
coached by the illustrious Ray Slug Jordan. That would have been interesting, Timmy G.
Yeah, he was a different character, old Slug. Don't worry about that. But there were some names in that. I mean, Paul Salmon was like there.
Yes, there he is.
Damien Burke and Paul Salmon were their ruckman, and they were about 6'7" or 8" then. They were huge.
Yeah, I'm looking at now. I can pick Sam. It's really hard to read the names underneath, but you can certainly pick Salmon and Burke, as you've said that.
Oh, they're huge players. So, yeah, they had quite a dominant team, the old Vics. But, it was a great experience for me coming away with an All-Australian in the first year. I'd never forget Darren Harris played for us. South Adelaide went to North Melbourne. And I'll never forget, we played that game. He played fullback and he ended up playing a pretty good game. And as we were coming off the ground, a bloke walked out to him, shook his hand and gave him a Carlton Guernsey. And because there was no draft back then. And so they were just used to entice you with Form 4s and the like. And we all went, wow, what's going on there? And our match day team manager was a guy called Ron Kinsman, who Ronnie came from Woodville and ended up doing lots of years at the Crows. And Ronnie ran out, seeing the incident, grabbed the jumper and threw it in the bloke's face and said, "You get your filthy Victorian hands off of him."
Good to hear.
It was classic. I think poor old Darren Ellis was like, "Oh, no, I wouldn't have minded that."
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, looking at the side for the next year, Timmy G.
In the Till Cup.
Yeah, with the Till Cup side. And there is a guy there, I will say, that he's in the best 10 juniors I've ever seen. A Nord kid, Anthony Coles. He, as a junior, was extraordinary. He didn't go on with it. He kicked 10 against Port. Actually, it might have been 12 in an under-19s grand final. And you would have thought this guy was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. But of that front, just having a look now at the side, the front row, Andrew Bennett, Andrew Pays, Greg Anderson, Tim Ginever, Wayne Marnie, Robin Kidney. So there's a fair front row there.
Yeah. You're right too. Colsey, I sort of caught up with not long ago, and it was great to see him. I hadn't seen him for donkeys, but good bloke. He ended up playing back, I reckon, in that tournament. And he had to stand this kid that came up from Victoria for the final, who'd played league footy on the Saturday for St Kilda, and come up for the final on the Monday. Now his name was Tony Lockett, I think it was.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
Tony
okay.
Lockett.
Yeah, heard that name. Yep, sorry.
Just
trying to be a smart ass trying to work out who it was,
Just a lazy Tony Lockett.
He was amazing. Yeah, it was, and Colsey had to stand him. Good luck, Ant. Good luck.
What was it like playing against Tony Lockett there in the Till Cup?
Oh, you could tell he was a fierce, angry kid straight away. Like he was built, 17 years of age. He had a thin waist and the big pick-handled shoulders, and he was just such a beast of a man and great hands, and just you thought, gee, no wonder why he's playing league footy already. He was just already built for it. So quite a character. But the runner came out to him and said, "Hey, Tony, Slug wants you to do this, that, and the other." And he just kept staring ahead. And he said, "Slug wants you to do this, that, and the other." He just kept staring ahead. He said, "Tony, are you listening?" And he turned to the runner and he said, "You tell Slug to get fucked."
I tell you what, I reckon there were plenty of adults who wouldn't have done that to Slug, let alone a junior.
Oh, he was a
Victorian cricketer as well. He was a lunatic.
The
cricket stories around about him,
correct.
Now, am I right in saying that you had a bit of an interaction with Tony Lockett in that Till Cup?
Oh, there was a fair old blue in might have been the first quarter actually. Everybody was in it and all the rest of it, but I think I got thrown out of it pretty quickly. I wasn't that silly, mate. I wasn't that silly.
Fair enough.
Now, league debut, then after that, was it one of the night games originally?
It was the old Escort Cup.
Yeah.
So we were playing, I think it was a Wednesday night, again, Thebarton Oval.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible evening, and it was going to rain, all night. And we were playing school footy, and of course I said, "Well, look, I'm not playing because I've got to play league footy, but I'm on the bench." And back in those days, you sat on the bench, you might get on, you might not. And so anyway, I was standing watching the game. We're playing Finnan High again, ironically, but at Finnan this time. And we were down at 3/4 time, and the coach looked at me and said, "How about we drag your mate and you put his gear on and go on?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So I played the last quarter for Woody High. Luckily got out of it unscathed. We won the game, packed up my gear, went home, got picked up and went to play league footy and thought, "Oh, you beauty, I'll just be sitting on the bench all night." And
was
so
Trevor Robertson coach? Was Weasel was Trevor coach?
Trevor wasn't, not that night. No, he wasn't, but he did coach us, Trev. Yeah, good man.
Former state cricketer.
Correct, good keeper. And so we sit there in the box at Debbie and thought, got the rug on and you beauty. And no word of a lie, 5 minutes in, injury, Timmy, you're on. So I played just about the whole game. And I really enjoyed it because I was out there with league players and the like. And And I ran past Daryl Schimmelbusch, had a really good game, but I ran past him when he got a free kick, and I said, "Shimmer, shimmer, shimmer," and he went to handball it to me. And then he said, "Oh, you little bastard." And he started chasing me up. And then after the game finished, he came up, shook my hand, and he said, "Hey, that was clever. That was really clever." And like for a 17-year-old to do that to a senior player, like, it's a bit cheeky, isn't it?
You've always been the smiling assassin, Timmy, that's for sure.
So then you establish yourself in the league side in 84 and go through and play in the grand final. Look, I know you're going to say you're Nord, man. You get giving me shit because Nord won and all that. But in my book, the 73 and 84 grand finals are the two great grand finals in SANFL history.
Yeah, I think from a spectator's point of view or an outsider's point of view, it's one of the great SANFL grand finals of all time. But for me personally, it was probably premature. That was only my 6th game of league footy.
Yep.
And I came in really late into the team. I think with so we won the second semi, and I played a game earlier in the year, so there's one. So I played the last 3 minor round games and managed to kick, I reckon, 4 and 3 in the last 2 games. So sort of had my spot, if you like, as a sort of a, what would you say, forward pocket who gets about 5 minutes on the ball.
Yep.
And so the second semi, we played the Bays, and I play exactly that role, but I kick 2, and we play really well and we win. And we've had a great year. I then sat there nervously for a fortnight going, am I going to get a game? And I was sort of thinking, geez, I might be lucky to stay on the side. And then it was a bit of a surprise, we're staying with you. We got a couple of injuries, which I think threw things up, and they probably didn't want to make too many changes. And I played, but they changed just about everything, because you used to get a bit of a run on the ball, but Paul Belton was sort of number 1 rover, and you might get 5 minutes in the quarter. Because of, and you well and truly know this, Harvey comes into the team to tag Ash.
Yep.
So that takes out one midfielder, and that was Paul Belton. So Paul Belton was forced to a half-forward flank, like permanent. That forced me deeper as a forward pocket, if you like. And then Bomber, who would have been, say, the sentimental of the time or the ruck rover, he was sort of the loose midfielder, if you like. And then
Bradley as well.
And then Bradley was playing almost the exact same role.
Yep.
And it just changed the whole dynamic of everything. And then Barmy brilliantly puts Aish to full forward, and Max James ends up on the ball, who hasn't played a league go for about 3 years.
Yeah.
So it was it was funny. I always felt like we rearranged our chess pieces to match Norwood's, yet we've been the dominant team all year.
Yeah, that's fair point.
Yeah.
Mate. And you've been unlucky too. Lester Ross had a fair old game in the grand final. Lester Ross could seriously play as well.
Oh, he's a great player. But, look, I think basically the first quarter was all, a fast-paced blur for me. I think in hindsight, if and as players do today, you rotate off the bench. I think if you had that 15 or 20 minutes to get all that out of your system, go and have a 5-minute breather and then come back on in the second term, I think you probably would have settled down and had a good game.
Yeah.
But what happens in those days, because you're stuck in the forward pocket, well, the first one to come off is one of the forwards, isn't it? And I was the one that came off. I came off and I sat there until the 29-minute mark of the last quarter.
Yeah. I did remember you were on the pine a fair bit.
Yeah, and I remember coming, because I was almost in a blur. I was almost became almost like a dream sequence where you just weren't sure that you were there and it was happening, and it was such an intense game that, sort of what's going on, and when will I go back on? Won't I? The shame of being on the bench, because it was shameful back then. If you were on the pine, it was completely shameful. And as an 18-year-old in your 6th game, not understanding any of that, you pretty much blame myself for the loss. And it was just like, I remember the 29-minute mark, the phone rang, and they said fresh legs. And I thought, fresh legs at the 29-minute mark of the last quarter.
And it actually only went 29.40, so, geez,
Yeah.
you had a fair bit of time to make an impact. Yeah.
I got on, ran over the other side and actually hit Timmy Evans on the chest, and he has a shot and misses, I think.
Misses, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So I know you blokes would know it better than me, but...
Now, speaking of Timmy Evans, him and Barmy going toe-to-toe in the square at the beginning of the game, was that a shock?
Well, it was. I was then obviously still for the national anthem with Leicester, who's a very respectful man as well. And you could just hear this enormous roar of the crowd going off.
Yep.
And I sort of looked to my right and went, "You're kidding me. They're actually having a fight." And of course, then everybody started to run down to it. And you sort of go down and thinking, the national anthem's on. Like, where's the respect?
Yep.
And that game and that moment changed the way we line up for
the
national anthem
what I was just about
forevermore.
to say.
Yeah.
It was the last time.
Now, let's go into 85 and 86. And, look, I think you show a fair bit of character. You had a dispute. Let's, go through that in your words, Tim.
How do you mean, mate?
Well, with Russell and what you decided then doing the course. And, because I'm actually praising you for that.
Yeah, look,
that you're honest with yourself.
I was fiercely competitive, but built myself up into a game, into such a frenzy that you lost perspective. And as much as I had to be sort of kamikaze in my mind to get a kick, I was losing all perspective about, keeping your blinkers open and being more aware of what's around you and who's around you. And so I got to the point where I found out at one stage that if we lost a game, nobody would come near me after a game because I wouldn't talk for nearly a week. I wouldn't talk till the next Thursday night. And it's like, it's too long to actually recover.
Rowan Smith actually said to me they were quite worried about you at one stage, that you did take losing so hard, and they thought...
Too hard. Way too hard.
This kid's got a real problem. We need to get him out of this crap. Hey,
I think
it's important. Let's get back with the real world a bit.
I know the feeling, mate.
Yeah.
I
I can't deny it.
Yep. But I think I would have, in these days, you probably would have got help a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I didn't have a great pre-season in '86, and I was sort of in and out a bit, and I sort of felt like I hit this patch of form that I was going okay. And Russell had sort of been taking me off, and I went back to the twos, and I came back, and I felt like I was having this bit of a patch of form where I was going okay. And then this particular game, he took me off, I reckon, at the beginning of the third quarter. And I lost it because I felt like I was playing well. And I came to the boundary, and, of course, the coaches used to sit on the bench well and truly back then. And I grabbed the old mouth guard, and thank the Lord I didn't throw it. But I just fronted him and said, "What was that for?" And he just said, "Look, sit down, stop behaving like a schoolchild." And I said, "Well, I'll do that when you stop coaching like one." And that was just like, honestly.
Wow.
I always talk about attitude and having a great attitude, you can achieve anything. Well, having a bad attitude, you fall into the world of blame and excuses. Well, that's where I was. I was in the world of blame and excuses, and I sat there fuming, and I could tell that Russell wasn't happy with me. But again, you sat there, and then 5 minutes to go in the game, he said, "Warm up, you're going back on." And I said, "No, I'm not going on. It's a waste of time. It's wet, cold. I'll do a hammy. I'm not doing it." So I refused to go on. Then I left the game straight away, and I drove around the streets for 2 hours and not know what I was going to do. And it was a complete disaster. And I remember, long story short, a mate of mine just said, "Well, go back and put your cap in hand and apologise to Russell and cop your lot and see if he doesn't sack you." And I was fearful that I'd be sacked from the club for that. And I thought probably at the time, it was probably warranted. So Russell, I went to Sunday morning, he grabbed me, took me for a walk, put his arm around me and said, "Mate, totally understand that you're fiercely competitive and you want to win and you want to do well and all the rest of it, but you just can't behave like that. You can't display like that, and you're dragging everyone else down." So about 6 weeks on the twos. So that's where I went.
And you did a course, Mind Powers.
I did. Straight at the end of that season, I went off and did this course with a Canadian guy who came over, and it was all about being able to use your brain to succeed in whatever it is you want to do. And it was really just about being able to talk to yourself positively, get yourself in a positive mindset, and then being able to influence others the same way. And never, ever blame anybody else for anything that happens to you. Just if it's happened, then learn how you control it and what you can't control. And it was such a revelation for me that it took me from being this really intense beast to sort of being more probably aware and unselfish to help others, and then you in turn benefit from it. So I was very fortunate that happened, and that was a pretty significant turning point for me in my career.
And of course, then you had a reasonable year in '87 under Russell, but then Jack returning, that that helped you, and Jack's ability just to sell anything. The master salesman, to convince Wayne Marnie that he was, and Adrian Settree and guys who were just the role players that, they were bigger than Ben Hur and do the job for Port in the final. He was, Jack in that regard, second to none.
Yeah, and I have to agree with it, because I think a lot of probably other coaches perhaps looked at our lineup and went, there's nothing really there to worry about. But what they didn't know was what Jack was instilling in us. And, I'd been told forever that I was too slow and, can't kick over a jam tin and can't jump. And all those things are true. But but the beauty of Jack was he used to say, Timmy, what's your strength? Your ability to get the ball.
Yeah.
Because he said to me when he first got there, he said, what are you doing? I said, I've been doing sprint training for 4 years. And I've been, and he said, we're going to stop that. And I said, but I'm not quick. And he said, Timmy, speed's up in your head.
Yeah.
Your alertness, if you're alert, you'll get to the ball before them. And you're never going to be quick. He said, so all you've probably got out of the last 4 years is a really nice action, but you're no quicker.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was like, no, we're going to just soar with your strengths.
Yeah.
And your ability, I'll get you fit as, he said, and then you get it and give it to the blokes who can run.
Can't argue with that.
It's amazing how coaches can get you to run through brick walls, and Jack was certainly one of those that certainly instilled in a lot of you guys that you could do exactly that.
Well, it did happen happen, the game for Anthony Williams. Like, talk about sliding doors, and I'm not being rude, but it virtually discovered George Fiacci that day as well, that he ended up playing in a back pocket, and where he'd previously been the rover, the fill-in rover, up and down the twos. Yep.
Correct.
Good honest battler, and he discovered that day, and that started off the Batman and Robin, and you guys, Nord should have been well up at halftime. The amount of play Nord had in that first half, you guys ran all over it, and then to drive in Condo back to the Williams house.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the great shows of unity and emotion, and
it transcends football, doesn't it?
Yeah, and just.
Yeah, it did.
It just showed
and
everything.
I loved seeing Keith Thomas's view on it when he was on that little story that we did. He said that he described when Jim Teal died. He said we didn't handle it well.
No, we didn't.
He said we were over emotional, and he said we were standing in the lineup crying, and he said we just didn't handle it well. He said somehow Port Adelaide just knew that it meant more, and they were able to hold their composure when it mattered, and you can't blame anybody for anything. You just don't know how you're going to respond on those days.
Barmy admits that we handled that badly in '86 as well. Spoke about it at length, and out of that, it was interesting where you said some of the younger guys, they knew from looking at the senior guys, because it was Norwood. It was before the elimination final against Woodville. Went over in front of the scoreboard and thing. And the younger guys who hadn't been as close to Jim were looking at the older guys going, we're no chance.
Yeah.
We're Port were the other way. And it was just, we've got to win this for the Williams family. And Barmy admits that he actually didn't want to make the focus Jim, but in the end he probably should have.
Yep.
It was a tough day, but one that we sort of, it's etched in the memory forever.
And so you go through then, and then you end up being part of the golden era with Port, the three flags through 88 to 90, you being a huge part of it. And that. And how about, let's go back. Yeah, I know you take the piss out of yourself, not quick, blah, 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 but you got the ball. You had to be disappointed, really, though, that you're one of the few people to be dual All-Australian at Teal Cup level, not get looked at by an AFL club, Tim.
Yeah, look, I again philosophically look back on it and go, yeah, if you were in today's modern draft system, there's every chance you're picked up.
Oh, there's no way in the world. You're a dual All-Australian. You ain't not getting drafted. Yeah.
So you'd be in some system somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think back then there was this. I was pretty light too. When I started, I was sort of around that 64 kilo mark, so I certainly wasn't carrying a lot of weight. But I think
right at Morpheville
the thing about it at the time, they look when the Vicks looked at South Australia, WA, they were either looking for key position players that they didn't have, or they'd go for these really quick guys that they had these mudlarks.
Yeah, that's true.
They went, these guys are tough, but we need a quicker outside sort of player, or faster sort of people. And we had a lot of really good midfielders who were quite tough. So in that era I came through, we were producing the likes of, McGuinness, Platten, Nailey, God almighty. The small brigade were outstanding players, and they had all the tricks and all the things that I didn't have. So for me, the one ability I had was to find the footy, and it was sort of probably something that they thought, well, we got a lot of those. We probably don't need them.
Righto, funny moment, Tim. Go through it. The famous 1992 at the brewery.
Yeah. I'll make this my last one. They're calling me for dinner. But you know what's sad, Malcolm? Driving up Port Road, and the bloody chimney's not there. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
God almighty, it's sad. But I always say one of the great traditions of SANFL footy, and we've had it for a long time, is the chimney and the Tuesday. And, we made it our whole routine. Greg Phillips would roll it out and say, this is what we're doing this day, this is what we're doing the next day. And, you top it off with the chimney on Tuesday. We'd go fishing or crabbing on the Wednesday. It was just such a great week, and you'd always look forward to it. And, of course, that year, 92, was Greg's only as captain.
Yep.
And we got up on the stage and did all the things. And then as we're coming down, Greg says, hey, boys, how about we go up, have a photo? And I said, photo? For me? Yeah, no worries. And, of course, back then you had all the television stations, you had all the papers, and when I do my stand-up gig, I say, I said, back then there was the advertiser in the morning and the newspaper in the afternoon, and I said you'd have the Messenger on the Thursday night, and I said, and they were all there. I said, along with Football Times magazine and Hustler magazine, I said they were all there. And people like you blokes had laugh. I go, what are you laughing at? Do you have a copy of that? And then we got up the top to the roof, and I thought we were just going to walk over to the chimney, stand there, the four of us, and it was Greg Phillips, Mark Williams, Paul Northeast, and myself, and we just stood there and had this photo taken. And then they said, go up the ladder a bit. Well, Greg took off. He just went. And Choco stopped us and said, hang on. We've got a typical Choco. Got to get you in shirt order, because some of us had a black shirt and others had a white. So Greg had a white one on. So he said, Norther, you go next. You got a black. I'll go third because I got a white. And Timmy, you're last because you got black. I said, right, done. So we're black, white, black, white. So we get to the ladder, and I did not climb a rung. I just turned around and had a photo. And then they said, can you go up a bit further? Well, Greg took off. Norther followed. And then Mark goes, and then I go. And before I know it, I'm halfway up the ladder, thinking to myself, oh, shit, this is ridiculous. I'm shit scared of heights. And the only reason I did it was because I thought I was going to be front page of the paper. So off we go. This is how obsessed I am with being noticed. So up they go. It comes from a big family and you're number 7. So up they go, and Greg firing up, and I said, Greg, how far we going, mate? He said, all the way, Timmy, all the way, mate, just like we did on Saturday. We're the champions. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. And then Paul Northeast is next. He's not saying a word, and I'm thinking, oh, this is bad because he's a psycho. And then Choco, and he will not shut up talking. He's going, oh, my God, Timmy, this is incredible. This is a brand new fear. Don't look down, Timmy, for God's sake. Oh, look at this. I said, shut up, Choco. Let's just get to the top. So we get up there, and Greg, he fires around, and then Norwood goes, and he's not too steady on the feet. And then Choco goes and he's bloody chatting away, blah, 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 blah. And then I get up and I am absolutely gone. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling where in your guts you've completely lost your balance and my legs are wobbling. And so I've crouched down.
Yeah, you are. You're holding it far more than anyone else, Timmy G.
And I can hear this little ant down the bottom say, stand up, stand up. So as I stood up and for a proper upright photo, I didn't realise, but it's a fair dinkum chimney. And the wind changed direction and the heat off of the chimney. I felt like it burnt my head, and I thought I was like Michael Jackson and the Pepsi ad. My hair was on fire. Well, I dived for the rail, grabbed what I thought was the rail, which was the gate. I went flying out on the gate, and Mark Williams grabbed my arm and pulled me back in and said, "Hang on, mate, we haven't finished the photo." So they went click, 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 and we got down off of the ladder. I couldn't believe it, and I got to the thing, and then there's a security guard there. And he had his arms folded and he was all smug and he said, "That won't happen again next year." I said, "You're fucking telling me it won't. It'll never happen again ever." And it never did.
Mate, we know you've got to head off. Is there any chance we might be able to get you for part 2 next week?
Or in another
time, because we've got a ton of stuff we still want to get through, mate.
Yeah, no worries, buddy. That'd be great. Yeah,
we'll do it 2 parts and we'll stir you up, because you also, let's not forget, he did meet his wife at Heaven nightclub. So there's plenty more to come.
We won't add that one to the teaser just yet, but we'll talk about it next time or next week.
All right, boys. I'll catch you then.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and we'll touch base and see when we can fit you in next week.
Beautiful. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Thanks, Timmy G.
Happy days.
And, mate, to kick us off for happy days, happy birthday to Luke Dankervis, Adelaide Crows, 20-year-old, drafted in 2021. Hasn't registered his debut game yet, but a midfield forward. Tough to break into at the moment.
Yeah, he was pretty impressive in last year's SANFL final, so
won't be too long.
I hope he gets an opportunity.
Absolutely. Obviously, a good young forward and midfield replacement for a couple of ageing stars in that forward line, and also the midfield. I'm sure you're right. It won't be too long before he gets his debut. All right, mate, we move on. Cricket. Cricking batting genius Sir Donald Bradman scores 145 not out for Australia v Hampshire. Obviously, I thought this was quite topical with Australia playing the Ashes pretty soon. At Southampton, completing 1,000 runs before the end of May for the second time, and the only touring batsman to England ever do and perform that feat.
You just can't have enough words about Bradman as a cricketer.
Yes.
Just incredible. He is, there's Bradman then a gap with anyone else batting, and you just can't dispute that for mine.
Obviously, if we could invent a time machine and go back and watch some of these innings, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Just to show you that he was well and truly ahead of his time, wasn't he?
It's just hand-eye.
Yep.
Yeah, incredible.
And obviously we've seen the footage of him basically with a stump and a golf ball against a corrugated iron rainwater tank. You're right. Hand-eye coordination is crazy. But, 145 and completing 1,000 runs before May is a pretty special effort. All right, we move on. To basketball, NBA. Golden State Warriors win the NBA Western Conference back in 2015.
Yeah, they were a great side there for a while, Golden State Warriors.
They sort of come back in the last couple of years, but haven't quite got the job done.
So, but they were certainly pretty specky there.
Steve Kerr, obviously, coaching, part of the Chicago Bulls Premiership years. Franchise. And, I think they're going to be around the mark again next year as well. Yep. All right, mate, in 2017, the soccer, English FA Cup final, Wembley Stadium. Arsenal defeats Chelsea 2-1. Aaron Ramsey scores in the 79th minute to win the game. And Wagner becomes the most successful...
Arsene Wenger.
That's the one. Becomes the most successful manager in FA Cup history, winning his 7th title.
Yeah, no, the Arsenal dominated the FA Cup there for a while. And he was certainly there. Arsene Wenger was there at Arsenal for a long time.
Yep.
But, they would just seem to nail the FA Cup. And the FA Cup back then was huge.
Yes.
You never miss the FA Cup.
It was like Wimbledon, FA Cup, the Boxing Day test.
We used to have FA Cup parties.
Yes.
And that was huge.
These days, obviously, being on demand, you can basically watch it in bed, So, totally understand. And, you're right. Unfortunately, Arsenal getting the better of my Chelsea, but, hey, I had to put that one in there. All right, mate, we move on. In 1956, tennis with the French Open coming up. The French Open men's champion was Australian Lou Hode, wins his first and only French Open to defeat Sven Davidsson of Sweden at 6-4, 8-6, 6-3.
Yeah, Lou Hode's probably a little bit forgotten back there.
And that's why,
It's such, an era there of Australian dominance, with Laver, Rosewell, Newcombe, Fraser, Roach. You go on, and, Lou Hode, Hey, you win a major and winning the French. Fair effort, that.
Absolutely, and especially over in Europe. A lot of the clubs over in Europe are clay court clubs, so to beat somebody over there, and like you said, almost the forgotten, and that's why I added it to the list, because I was like, that's a nice little stat for Lou Hode, and congratulations on winning his French Open. All right, mate, let's move on. Let's head on to the big finish.
Extra time. Big finish.
All right, mate, we start off with Neil Danzy passing away, mate.
Yeah, look, Neil, I go back a long way with Neil Danzy because he was the burster at Norwood High when I was there.
Yep.
Let's also remember, not only did he play a very successful state cricketer, that he also played league football for Norwood. It's a huge loss for cricket, and best wishes to Paul, Tim, and Catherine, and that. So it's Kate. Sorry. So it's 124 matches, 7,543 runs, average of 34, 1800s. 90 wickets, and an average of 33. He was a very successful all rounder. Played grade cricket when he was 15. 39 nat games for Norwood before retiring, aged just 21, to concentrate on cricket. So he was very highly regarded in cricket as well.
Yep.
The last player to bat with Don Bradman.
Yep.
In an official match. Bradman playing Kensington against Port Adelaide. Ironically, in that, Bradman was given out caught behind, the crowd all booed and adjourned to the Alberton Hotel.
Wow. Always sad when a legend of the sport passes away, but some of those stories that you've said there, playing with Bradman and stuff like that, you'd kill for that opportunity, wouldn't you?
And it involved for a long time too in cricket. So, South Australian official, selector, various roles at the Saka.
Yep.
He's certainly been a substantial figure.
Contributor.
Played also, that's when East Torrens played at Norwood Oval, was their home ground and that. So, Neil Danzy, RIP.
Absolutely. All right, mate, we'll move on. A little bit of fun here to keep us going. We've done this the last couple of weeks. Trade, re-sign and retire. This week I've got Dusty, Dyson Heppel and Travis Boak.
Heppel retire.
Yep.
I think the other two will still be at the same club, but I almost... Dusty Martin, who knows?
Yep.
Does he want to finish off somewhere else in the... With Sydney being more obscure? He's an unusual cat, so we just don't know. Look, I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
So he'd be your trade and Boak would be your re-sign?
Yeah, if...
Boak hasn't been as impactful this year, but he's still, like we talked about earlier on with Fife and we talked about with Walker and Sloane, they marshal and change and stand there.
He still had some important games. He's
absolutely.
Got crunched and hurt his ribs a couple of times, and
my
understanding he's in a fair bit of doubt to play Sunday too.
Yep. My thinking on that is I'm with you. Heppel to retire, Boak to re-sign and Dusty to be traded.
Well, Richmond probably going to be in the point where they're going to have to trade some people. So, absolutely. Does make sense.
All right, we'll move on. Cricket, mate. Labuschagne makes a couple of tons in some county cricket games.
Yeah, the wheel changed a bit and Steve Smith made runs and Ollie Robinson, who's
I had that on my list.
To be a pretty important player for England. We're waiting on results from scans on his ankle. So it's and
Hazelwood
came back from the IPL side, potential side strain. So it could well be a war of attrition, which bowlers end up. And Stokes is doubtful to bowl, which is pretty important for England.
Yep.
Just a war of attrition, which bowlers end up standing up.
Could be a bit of a toss of the coin, or sending for reinforcements from Australia here, especially at the moment. It's going to be an interesting series if that does end up eventuating.
And we've got the World Championship final against India to come in a couple of weeks. So
we'll try and cover that one over the next couple of weeks as well. All right, we move on. The SANFLW, mate, you brought up a good point earlier about the SANFL teams using the video access to their advantage.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I'm doing the scoreboard at the game with Norwood West, and I'm just watching. Let's be honest, you've got a bit of time to watch them take things in. And a couple of times I'm thinking there was one of the Norwood ladies, girls, whatever you want to say, consistently going too early in terms of reading off hands and getting ahead.
So
and
she's getting into the contest, but a little bit too early.
Come back here, sort of thing. And I'm thinking, I'm just wondering. And I intend to follow that up over the next couple of weeks. I just wonder how much they're using on that. And I just reckon the old picture paints 1,000 words.
Yep.
Show up basic. Hey, you've got ahead of the ball there. Bang, bang. All these SANFL games are
live streamed.
A film. So it's certainly not like it's not available. So, I'm going to follow that up because it was just something which intrigued me. At the time, and so I just might make a few phone calls to various clubs so we come back with a bit more balance on that next.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the men's game at the AFL level and also the SANFL level would be scrutinising that video week in, week out.
Okay, it's more there's more tactics and structures there. We understand that, but I'm just wondering there.
Well, but the SANFLW and the AFLW are still very much in a learning phase as well. So any type of tool like this can be only a benefit and a positive thing for the club itself, and also for the players just to understand and help them get better. Yeah. So I think, follow that one up, and we'll touch base with a couple of weeks to go. All right, mate, and we finish off. We talked about it briefly last week in the hockey. Australia playing India here in South Australia and getting the chocolates.
Yeah, some good results, and it's a good. I enjoy going out to the hockey stadium outside, town, just as you're going on Main North Road.
Yep, Jeps Crossway.
It's a good facility, great result against India, and look,
we played a lot of young ones too. I didn't watch the game, but I obviously keep an eye on it because we were talking about it. They did play quite a few young ones, which I think bodes well for the future of the hockey as well.
It does, but also they're not far away from. It almost becomes a trial game for the Olympics. So I dare say there was a lot of looking and deciding on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Congratulations to Australia on that one, and may their form continue leading up to some Olympics coming up soon. Yeah. Yep. All right, mate. Huge episode once again tonight. We thank our guests for being on the show tonight, and as per usual, mate, we promise to do better.
Definitely.
All right, we'll see you next week.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.